going on, guys? Blink here, back with a new guide. So this guide will be a full gameplay duos guide with me walking through every single situation. Also, the V-Bucks giveaway is still going on, so make sure to visit the link in the description to enter. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications as opposed to Amazon gift card code in the comments every time I upload. By turning on notifications, you'll have a way better chance of getting here first and redeeming that code. Anyways, guys, let's get to this guide. Now, this video is a little different as this duo is instead of my usual solo games, so hopefully you guys enjoy it just as much. Alright, so basically I've gotten all the weapons I need. That shotgun has just put me in a much more secure position. Gotta try getting that shotgun off the bat, especially in areas with buildings everywhere. You'll most likely encounter players at closer ranges, and that's when the shotgun will do you good. And you might be wondering, well, what if there's a player a little farther in the town and the shotgun's your best weapon? Well, you can build towards him to get in range where the shotgun will do you good. When you've gotten a shotgun early game, you can set yourself up for a better early game by gathering materials off the bat. You don't need to find materials as they're right in front of you, but you do have to find that shotgun as there's no such thing as a hard spawn of a weapon. So that's just the reason I love finding shotguns early game. I can now put myself in a better position by gathering materials. Your early game will become much more random until you find that shotgun, especially if you get pushed. My game technically hasn't started until I find it. That AR isn't going to do you well at close ranges, so what I like to do is usually avoid fights and keep looting until I find that shotgun. Now, you guys can see I've gotten over 150 materials. As I always say, I like to at least have 150 minimum, but the more materials you have, the better. So we ended up spotting players in this house, and I decided to push from the roof to catch them off a little. Now, I end up downing one, and I hear another player in the corner. What I did was add a jump instead of try peeking it slowly. I don't have the peeking advantage as my opponent's on the left side of my screen. Anytime my opponent's on the left side of my screen inside a house, then I'll add a jump as I peek him. That way I can throw his aim off and we're basically seeing each other at the same time. Now, if you guys notice, we only eliminated 3 players, and what this means is there's still a 4th somewhere, which never showed up. Although, if you guys end up in the same situation, then make sure you're more aware than usual, as this player knows you've eliminated his teammate, and he's probably going to try finding you. He'll probably also spot you first, as he knows exactly where you are. So make sure you guys are prepared to build walls in any direction as you guys might get shot at. Now, once again, he never showed up, so we continued looting. I also want to mention that me and my teammate both have shields because we shared. Now, I do get this happen with some friends I play with. They'll use the full shield as you still have 0. So make sure you guys are keeping an eye on your teammate's health too, as he's playing a big part of getting that win. If he ends up dying, the chances of you winning have gotten much lower because the fights will usually be 1v2s. Now, we looted up as much as we could, and my teammate ends up spotting a player up ahead. So we go for the push on him, and I push into the porta fort. He had no clue what he should have done, and in his situation, he probably could have shot my materials down as I was building up to him. He's got the high ground, so the next step is to try to keep that pressure on both of us. It's much harder in his shoes as he's in a 1v2, but you gotta apply that pressure whenever you have the advantage. So we end up getting shot by another player, and make sure to build in the direction of the shots. Now, some people ask me, how do you know where to build? Well, you have to listen to where the gun sounds are coming from. But if you guys look around my crosshair, the moment I got shot, there was a blue arrow indicating where this opponent was shooting me from. Use that arrow to know exactly where you need to place your walls. It's telling you exactly where your opponent is shooting you from, which is perfect. So we ended up knocking this player, and it was a pretty easy knock as I used the plunger grenades to knock him off his platform. Now, I'm not sure how the plungers work exactly, but if you ever encounter an opponent inside a 1x1 and you've gotten the plungers, then throw them at the same wall, because I noticed myself knocking players easily by doing that. Not sure why, but I do get a hefty amount of knocks with them. Now, a tip I want to give you guys is to jump whenever you're gathering materials. I've been adding in the jumps a little more, as walking around trees isn't good enough because you can still get sniped pretty easily. So I do get lasered by an opponent behind me as I'm gathering wood. I build right for that high ground, and he never attempted to build up too. So we both cornered him, and his teammate was nowhere near him. Although my teammate did spot his teammate at the south end around a house. Now, we weren't sure if that was his teammate, but it was just another player to fight. Now, I heal up, and my teammate knows to wait for me before engaging. You want to make sure you're in a close proximity with your teammate. That way he can support you as you're fighting. Not like this last fight where the player's teammate was absolutely nowhere near him. So we go for the push on him, and I'm making sure I'm adding stairs instead of walls to push. Don't push with walls as you have to go around them. Use the stairs as cover, and you'll be able to keep your momentum going as you're pushing. Now, once again, you always want to get the high ground. It's probably the most used word in most of my guides to create, because it's so important. He was hiding somewhere down below, so we both tried pushing him. He ended up hiding under a set of stairs, so I tried trapping him in. Now, guys, never just run away and hide. Make sure you're fighting even if it's a 1v2. And yeah, you might not win many 1v2s, but you're improving every single fight you take. The only way to improve is to actually take these fights. You hear a lot of players say to keep fighting if you want to improve, and it's true, but one thing you should also be doing is making sure you know what you could have done better in each and every single fight, and try to apply those new habits in the next fight you take. So, we move into Salty Springs and end up fighting 2 players. So, I instantly go for that high ground build up and use a stair edit trick to catch my opponent off by surprise. He never expected it and I was able to drain his HP, although he did get a shot onto me too. Whenever you know your opponent's under your stairs, you always see me do the stair edit method to get a drop onto them. So, try to incorporate this method of peeking into your playstyles. Now, I'm trying to find him and he ends up getting away. The problem now is that my teammate does go down and you never want to just rush in without taking minis. So play for yourself at this point. Even if your teammate ends up screaming to get him up, don't just push in. Yes, you want to try to make sure he doesn't get eliminated, but you also have to make sure your health is the best it can be before taking the fight. Now, my teammate's a great player and never tells me to get him up. He helps by letting me know where these players are. It's a great habit to take in as you don't get all frustrated when trying to save him. So you guys can also see I'm breaking down some walls around me because they weren't my walls I can edit. You want to make sure you at least have a few walls that are your own. That way you can escape with the edit tool before an opponent tries engaging onto your walls. So I get up my teammate and make sure you're asking him if he needs heals, as once again, you're a team and you want to make sure your team's in good health just as much as you. Now, I get right back up to the high ground because we just fought for a pretty long time. And I've said it many times, you always want to try getting to the highest structure around you and spot for any more opponents, because most likely someone's heading towards you after that fight. By you already having the high ground, you already skipped the building part, and all you have to do now is just keep shooting. So I eliminated this down player below to see if he's got any medicals. Anything I can get right now is crucial before we have to get into the safe zone. Now, we end up hearing a player inside the house, so I walled up the attic just so I'm in cover and I'm able to edit peek the other side. Now, he ends up hiding somewhere down below, and my objective right now is to find any extra meds I can get before heading out to the safe zone. I did have a jump pad, which means I can take much more time to heal and figure out what I want to do. I do end up finding a chug jug down below and take it. I never like saving chug jugs because you'll most likely never have a chance to use them in building battles, as it's got a 15-second timer. Now, I'll be honest, I was not in a good spot to use this chug jug as there were windows right in between me. Although thankfully I healed up safely, and my next objective was to see if we can eliminate these opponents. So, you guys can see I go for this medkit and accidentally replaced my minis. Yeah, don't do that. I tried replacing my impulse nade and never noticed the switch up. Now, I hear a player inside the roof, and whenever you hear someone on the opposite side of you, you want to place a wall down for cover or move to the side. It wasn't possible for me to move to the side as there was nowhere to go, so make sure you guys are at least protecting yourself some way after breaking an object. Now, this player built up, and I had to respond by trying to build up too, just so I don't allow him to set up. As he's building, I build with him. That way he has no time to get a few stories above me and put on the pressure. I was able to get a few hits onto him and ended up taking some damage myself, as I thought he was going to go to my right. So I made the wrong build and he was able to hit me too. Now, I did get the elimination in the end and got into heal mode right away. I've got 40 seconds to get into that safe zone, but remember that I can take it to the last second as I have a jump pad. Say if I never had a jump pad, I'd be running it a little earlier and probably not take the fight. The endgame circles start taking for at least 2 damage per second, and I might get caught off fighting someone as I'm still inside the storm. So make sure you guys are leaving earlier, especially if you don't have a jump pad. Now, I use the edit tool to check for any more players around, as I'm already safe and covered. I might as well take advantage of the edit tool before exposing myself. Now, me and my teammates spot a player down below and start engaging onto him. Remember what I said about the high ground? Because I'm up here, I don't have to build any higher. All I now have to do is keep shooting at this player down below. Now, what I actually should have done is opened up the top a little more or broke that top piece in my way. That way I can add jumps as I'm peeking out. You guys can see I'm not really moving much when shooting because I don't have the room. After a long period of standing still, you want to make sure you're adding those jumps. That way you don't get sniped. So that's something I did wrong in this situation. Now, I get down to the bottom just so I can find this last opponent. The circle is coming in, but once again, I still have that jump pad. So I want to eliminate this opponent. That way he doesn't use our jump pad and follow us from behind, as he might cause some trouble during endgame. Now, we end up eliminating him, and he still had a teammate, which we never expected. Now, this is where you avoid that fight and build up to jump out away. The circle was way too close, and it wasn't worth taking any damage, as it would have no time to heal before getting into the safe zone. You want to make sure you're healed up before jump padding, because you never know who you're going to run into. Now, I kept telling my teammate to avoid the fight and come jump pad. I thought he was coming, but he ended up going the other way around and got knocked out. So unfortunately, this potentially leaves me in a 1v2 situation most of the game. Now, in situations where you're alone, you usually want to forward up and wait for players to come at you. This gives you a better chance of winning because as time passes, the rest of the people on the map might fight it out, and at endgame, it might end up being you versus 2 players. Now, I could have built in the zone and just waited until the circle got smaller, but I decided to push this player inside this fort. By me putting myself at the low ground from the start, it will help me improve my skills even more. So if you ever see players forted up, most of the time avoiding them would be your best bet, but if you want to keep improving your skills, then go for that push on them. So I was getting shot at from the mountain as I was fighting this player. As I was building up to this player, you guys can see I was placing walls in the direction of the mountain. That way I don't get shot while fighting. Now, as I was trying to put on the pressure, I ended up getting tagged up a little as I was still a little exposed. This player tried to build up onto me and I still tried to maintain the high ground as I made sure to build cover. I tried taking a few snipes at these players on the mountain and not much luck, although it's still good to give it a shot. So the player I was fighting got eliminated from the players on the mountain, so I never had to worry about him. Now, the player that my teammate died to ended up actually making it out of the zone. He tried taking shots at me, and this puts me in between the players on the mountain and the players shooting at me. So I edited my way down to the bottom instead of jumping out of the fort. This keeps me safe as I'm trying to get down, and it notifies less players that have left my fort. That way no one has an idea to push me. I was gonna see if I can find some minis, as I like carrying those instead of the medkit. Just allows me to take meds in less than 2 seconds. Now, I had no luck finding minis, but I do find a little bit of materials, which is always good to have. As I'm shooting back at the players on the mountain, another player shows up and starts shooting down my old fort, and I end up building right back up for the high ground. I actually got my stairs shot out by the players on the mountain and took a bit of damage. So me and this player end up building off, and we're getting pressured by the other teams too. So I drop down to avoid taking any damage. This player ends up dropping down too and boxes himself in. So what I want to do is replace his wall with mine and see if I can get an edit shot onto him. He actually ends up trying to edit peek me as I never expected it. I can't just place a wall down to cover myself as there's nowhere to place a wall. If in any situation a player reverse edit peeks you, you want to place a staircase down in front of his wall as it will usually cover you from his shot. Now, you can also try taking shots back. Depending on how close you are to his wall, that staircase might end up going above you. So if you're super close, then your best bet will be to fight it out, as you're using that right side peeking angle to peek in and out. So I make sure to heal up before taking a look at what's going on. You always want to make sure you keep that health high before you re-peek any players. So I take these 2 minis and try spotting for this player by the storm. I wanted to see if he would peek out so I can maybe get a hit onto him before moving up. Unfortunately, he never peeked out, and I had to start moving into the zone as the storm started to close. So my objective now is to try to build close to the middle of the zone. That way I have a better spot than both teams. Now, I make sure to reload my weapons, and as I do that, this player jumps right at his fort like he was Spider-Man. I'm also pretty sure he took some damage in the process. Now, I tried sniping him, but no luck, so I kept moving forward. Now, you guys can see I placed 2 walls down in the direction of the players on the mountain before reloading my sniper. They can be anywhere by now, and I want to have some cover to avoid getting surprisingly shot. So as I'm moving up, I'm getting spammed in both directions. I make sure to quickly build both ways to avoid taking damage. If players are shooting you, just stay calm and keep rebuilding in the proper materials. Now, as I'm rebuilding, I'm trying to see if I can get a snipe shot onto this opponent. In these types of situations, you'll most likely want to pull out your sniper and see if you can get a headshot onto your opponent. Your opponent thinks he's got you struggling, but really you're ready to take another shot, because what he's doing is peeking out, putting all his focus onto your materials. Now, I end up hitting a shot onto him, and he instantly goes into a defensive mode to try getting a heal off. At that moment, you want to push him because he's not peeking out anymore. Now, he boxes himself in, and once again, when players are boxed in, you want to replace their walls to edit peek them. He actually ends up throwing a boogie bomb at himself as he thought I was just going to push in. This gives me time to jump inside and get the elimination. Now, I'm quickly grabbing everything I need. As I'm doing that, I get jump padded on by the player on the mountain. This player knew I was inside the box and he tried pushing me because I was potentially low on HP. Thankfully, I didn't take any damage, and what I now have to do is try grabbing the high ground when he's already got it. You guys can see I was building up and I utilized the elevator method of building. That way I'm always in cover as I'm getting a little higher. So I was able to grab the high ground from him without taking any damage. The most important step is to always make sure you have cover from your opponent as you're building up. Now, I tried editing my way a little lower because I can hear him down below. I purposely never ended up going too low because you don't want to get caught out halfway down and your opponent ends up building right above you. So what he ended up doing is jump padding right above me. Now, if a player tries jump padding onto you, you want to keep building up and up, because what will usually end up happening is you'll end up burying him down below you as you're building up. This is exactly what ended up happening, and I'm still able to hold the high ground. The issue is that I'm in range of falling to my death. So what you want to do is look for your opponent to make sure he's not dropping all the way down to destroy your materials. Had I not heard him or saw him below me for a few more seconds, I'd drop down a little lower just in case he's at the bottom hitting my materials. Now, I'm trying to put the pressure onto him the whole time. He tried going for the jump pad again and wasn't able to reach the top. So I dropped down a little lower to see if I can get a better angle on him. I do notice a zone coming in, so I head right back up to the top. That way I can drop down and use his jump pad. The reason why I'm going back up, because I'm not too close to him and I have a better angle of reaching his jump pad. Had it kind of built around his height, he might just have an angle on my materials. So you guys can see as I'm dropping down, I'm editing the tile I'm on. Doesn't matter which tile you edit as long as you're editing the one you're standing on. This allows me to elevator myself down safely instead of trying to build stairs down. Now, he doesn't make the jump pad in time and takes a lot of damage from the circle. I can't remember how much damage the endgame circle does, but I'm pretty sure it's way more than 2 ticks per second. So I tried shooting him down in the process of him jump padding. No luck, as I never had the angle because I went a little too far. So we built off for the high ground. What he actually ended up doing after building is dropping down a heal. It's actually a super smart thing to do. He places down a little bit of materials, that way it's harder for me to tell where he is. He then drops down a heal before I notice. Now, I did end up noticing, and once again, he boxed himself in, so I tried replacing his wall with mine. He shot mine out, so I did the same to his, and we both ended up shooting each other in the open. The advantage I had was I had the right side peeking angle. I'm able to peek in and out and avoid getting hit. He's got nowhere to go, as I can see him the whole way as I'm peeking in and out. So it ended up being an easier elimination for me. So, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this gameplay guide, and a like and a sub will be greatly appreciated as it does help me out a lot. Anyways guys, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and I'll see you on the next one.